often is that an artist is told by someone who's in a more managerial position to just focus on your work, focus on your craft. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the administration of things. When in fact, you really do need to keep yourself aware of all goings-on in your profession and your business. They're all integral. And I think it's important to develop your business acumen and forge really good working relationships in addition to fostering a positive environment around you. Because projects that you get and assignments can hold a lot of excitement and adventure when you allow them to extend the parameters. But if you take yourself too far away from the bottom line, then you're no longer placing value on your craft. And that's a very important thing for a creative person to do. I'm a big advocate for creatives to take their careers as seriously as any other profession, to wear all the hats, not as a full-time thing, but to at least know what it feels like to have that hat on. I know, and this is going to debunk the mystique and the sexiness of being an artist, but I think at some point everyone should at least learn to do their own taxes or practice or learn where the numbers are going. Know where your money's being allocated to.
I think artists for a long time in the music business have been taught to turn it over, very much the way in the finance business. Clients have been taught to turn over their holdings to brokers, to do trades, to invest, and there's usually this buffer so that they really don't know what's going on a lot of the time. They don't really feel like it's their job to have to translate and explain everything because, quote, they're being hired for their expertise. But I've noticed something in the music industry for bands that were around 20 years ago, for example, or 25 years ago that are still doing well today, which is that a lot of the people that came in to manage those bands or to help handle the administration of those bands or to market them are not necessarily doing the job that they were doing 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And a lot of them just keep these accounts, but they don't really service their customers anymore. I mean, I can tell you numerous musicians and bands where this is going on, and the band members have no idea. None.
Absolutely.
And because they've had long relationships with people, it's blind trust. It's not conscious trust. It's blind trust. Because they really are the asset. And as an artist, you are the asset, not just your music, you. And it's a very interesting dynamic. And today now with iTunes, go on your phone and you're on the net. And the ability to sell a piece of music that you just did, and you don't have to wait to sell a whole album or a whole CD right off the bat. It's a whole new world we're in. So I think with this comes the need for a totally different mindset and paradigm for taking care of artists and creative people and musicians, songwriters, composers, etc., singers, totally differently than the way they have been, I'm going to say, serviced or not serviced in the past. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think because the industry has become more democratic, it's become alluring for someone who is a self-starter. It's also intimidating for someone who's a self-starter or who desires to put their work out there. That having multifacets, including the business acumen, it's no longer an anomaly. It's becoming more and more recognized that artists really should take control of their holdings, of what yields from their putting their work out.
I remember going onto Twitter like a year ago and seeing this very well-known band making a Twitter comment that the euro is going down, 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 and they don't know what to do. And I thought to myself, oh my God, it's so obvious what to do. How come the managers and the people that are in charge of helping them aren't doing them the service that needs to be done? I was stunned. But this goes on all the time. I mean, you know, we live in a world now where I would say most of the public has a sense that, you know, we have high-frequency trading, we have derivatives, we have plays in the stock market, we have shorts on markets and industries and products and companies. And there was a short on the transatlantic stock a month before the Gulf. So you have to watch shorts in the market. There's all kinds of stuff. So if you understand central banking today, not to go into a whole finance thing, but if you understand central banking, you know exactly what you need to do. Exactly what you need to do, because you could see the writing on the wall of what's happening. And any broker, manager, if they're not explaining to their clients about central banking and how it's impacting what their investments are, they're not doing the service. So I think it's great that you talk about being self-sufficient and that you're saying it in the context of really knowing what's going on.
Well, absolutely, because I think one financial trend begets another, and if it's a detrimental one, you can see the writing on the wall early on if you look at the business trends. If you examine not just the business trends, but the political trends. I won't get too deep into it, but it's sort of a given that when you observe the behaviors of one corporation who's promising something to the people, and I'll translate that to companies that say, oh, we'll help you as a musician or writer or a creative person to move your product along and get yourself seen. Now, you can really do that yourself. All it takes is a basic skill set or a set of skill sets.
At the very least, an ability to identify who are the correct people to assist you, because things happen in circles, obviously, in groups also. Great stuff happens by great teams of people, right?
Right, and I think you're not really looking at, well, I don't want to dictate to people what they should and shouldn't do, but I don't look for numbers. I don't look for trying to please everybody at the same time, because then that would pretty much water down what I set out to do. I'm going to get the cream of the crop. I'm going to get the people who are looking to feel what I'm putting out. They'll come to me. The attraction will build. I had this great experience, and it wasn't the first time, but it was the first time in a long time that I'd seen Carole King in concert.
Wow.
And she's a phenomenal performer, and she's really enriched so many lives, she and James Taylor. So I had the opportunity to see them at Madison Square Garden. Now, that's a huge arena. That holds nearly 20,000.
Right. I remember being there, actually. You're not going to believe who I saw there. I was very young.
So many acts there. And to see that kind of arena filled with people who are all drawn to the same energy, their product, who they are, is an intimate thing. And yet you're in this, enormous space of this arena, and just the feeling of everybody's love for them and the mutuality of what they're giving back to the audience is pulling everybody closer together psychically. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so in terms of money, in terms of, making the money and creating the wealth, if you will, it's going to happen. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, it's going to happen. There was a time maybe 25 years ago where people were probably clamoring to hear Carole King, and maybe not Carole King per se, but an artist like Carole King who has seen the highs and lows of a career and has played to an audience of 3. I mean, I myself, I'll admit, I've played to an audience of 2, and then I've played to an audience of hundreds, and I have yet to play to larger audiences, but you also never know. This is the beauty of the democracy and the technology, is that you never know who's listening to you now that there's an online presence for artists, for musicians.
Have you felt at all that there was something you saw amongst professional women, composers, singer-songwriters, that's a cultural thing that you see? Do you feel like it's easier or it's tougher, or have you witnessed anything in terms of insight that tells you something about being a woman in music? On one sense, it doesn't matter, male or female. But on another sense, navigating the cultural motif of this industry and getting jobs. Have you noticed anything, or is it just transparent, it doesn't matter?
I don't want to say that it doesn't matter, because everything is so nuanced. And I feel personally, from my experience, that, sure, while there are expectations of me as a woman, whether they're made very clear or not, if I sense that, my natural inclination is to push through any stereotypes, is to move through what might be expected of me as a woman, whether it's if I'm being very confessional and putting my work out there with